I promised that I'd watch 3 episodes of Jersey Shore this month, and I've done just that. Altogether that's 2 hours of viewing, though I have to admit, it felt a lot longer. That's not me implying that I was horribly bored when watching or whatever, it just felt like a long time. I actually found it quite interesting, probably because I've got nothing to compare it to. It's a bit like buying a racing game if you've only ever played first-person shooters before. I suggest you try that, by the way. I've only bought one racing game for the PC, and it's far more memorable than all of the first-person shooters that I own, which after a while begin to blur together in my mind. Jersey Shore's a bit like Big Brother, only it's edited down to the best bits. And by best bits, I mean fights and drunken idiocy. It places a bunch of disgustingly overtanned attention seekers in a house together who all follow a strange Italian-American stereotype that I've never even seen before. I was hoping to study their way of life and to make sense of their hopes and dreams, but it looks as though they blindly amble about, following their genitalia as it leads them into the same problematic situations time after time. They seem unable to learn from their mistakes, and fights erupt from the smallest of situations. But then again, the characters in Jersey Shore are not exactly fairly portrayed. Those truly in power here are the editors, who get to splice the footage together however they like. All too often I felt as though they were trying to make a big deal out of nothing, cramming clip after clip in a bid to make us hate somebody in particular. You wouldn't think they'd have to try too hard with a show like Jersey Shore, but I felt the editing was too obvious and patronising. I guess this is to let each character have their moment in the spotlight, but I often spent that time trying to work out what actually happened before the editors butchered it. They had a field day with Snooki on the first night, but it's not long before they moved their focus to Angelina, trying to make her out as a lazy, useless person who expects life to be one big picnic. It might not be far from the truth, but it's amateurishly portrayed, lazily alternating between clips of her looking bored and customers seemingly confused and trying to imply that the two are somehow related. That's right. In order to get the stars of this series to occasionally take a break from their willy-waving hot tub orgy, they have to work in a shop that sells cool stuff. However, they don't seem to realise this when they get to Jersey Shore. It makes me wonder if they even read through the agreement before signing. Their antics in the shops are uncannily similar to those in The Apprentice, although I'd probably trust the Jersey Shore candidates a bit more. The whole thing stinks of being a cheap way of putting them in awkward situations and showing viewers how unacquainted with the workplace they really are. The series shows a fascinating insight into their lives. Right now, paused on my screen is a random part of an episode. Allow me to transcribe. The situation. I can't wait to go out. I'm going to get so much. Bleep censor. Ronnie, you had your chance last night. If I was going to get sloppy, I would have just pounded out What's Her Name on Friday. The situation. Which one? Ronnie. Schnickers. This is what they're like the whole time. Eventually I tuned it all out and everything began making a bit more sense. They aren't malicious or scheming, they simply do things on the fly, shooting first and asking questions later. I'm sure they're aware of the consequences, but they simply don't care. But who am I to judge these people? 8 of me in a house together would be far more boring. At least they have to earn their keep in this series and are ultimately just pawns in a reality TV show. I don't think that I'm the intended audience. I don't find any of them remotely attractive or interesting, which I feel is more of a shortcoming of myself than of them. Others who watch Jersey Shore for the same amount of time may do a lot better at getting to the heart of this programme and what it's all about. Unfortunately, even after 3 episodes, I still lump most of the stars together in the same generic category of people who enjoy partying and having sex, and as a result, probably skim over all of the small but important details that make them unique from one another. This is most likely my fault rather than of theirs. It took 7 years to remember my classmates' names at school, I forget most of my cousins' surnames, and couldn't distinguish between Aragorn and Boromir in the Fellowship of the Ring. Don't even get me started on the dwarves in The Hobbit, who may as well just be clones of each other for all I care. Of the 8, there are 2 that I have singled out as being slightly different. Vinny started off sounding more sensible and humble than the others, but bear in mind that's not exactly saying much. He also acts as though he's constantly being filmed, making him one of the more boring characters to watch. I reckon we'd be able to tolerate each other for an evening, which is more than can be said for the others. Snooki also left a lasting first impression. She gets to the house, acts all stubborn, gets drunk, tries to make out with everybody, and then hides away from the group, saying that they're all horrible to her and that she wants to go home. But at least she admits how frail and insecure she really is, albeit with enough drama to power ITV for several decades. I think the series was trying to portray this side of her, but the soppy music and endless one-on-one heartfelt chat she has with her housemates was a real turn-off for me. The rest of the house hide their insecurities behind muscles, makeup and snide comments as they strike a balance between humping everything that moves and not getting into a situation where they can't hump everything that moves. Many will look down on such behaviour, but I assume that, just like me, those people are somewhat jealous. For most, it's because the idea of casual sex is appealing. The idea of letting go of your principles and moral compass and not caring where you end up is almost a romantic notion, and one I suspect most people are unable to do due to the pressure from society threatening to remove what little stature they have from their insignificant lives. For me, I'm jealous because I don't think that I'd be able to do any of this, even if the rest of the world wanted me to. I can't burn through relationships from start to finish in days. How these people can make such big decisions and judge others in such a short time frame intimidates me and makes me feel vastly inferior. I feel as though they're all part of a club that I've not been invited to. I don't necessarily want to be part of it, but that's not the point. I believe that your personality is heavily influenced by your upbringing, but even if I had been in their shoes since birth, I still feel that I'd be missing something in my head that lets them behave the way that they do. And I feel that's a weakness on my behalf, not a strength. I suspect that if you're listening to this video, then you may be in a similar situation. You feel as though a large proportion of humanity is alien, but since you're the minority, then you're clearly the weird one. Jersey Shore can be seen in two ways: as mindless entertainment where we love to hate the stars, or as a depressing wake-up call to how the world is. Jersey Shore has had incredible viewing figures, which show its mainstream appeal. I can't imagine that many of those were from people like me. We all like to flock together with like-minded individuals, and I believe that this is why watching Jersey Shore has been such an uncomfortable experience for me. It shows a lifestyle that I know exists, but have shielded myself from until now. My watching it is almost like a cry for help as I extend the olive branch to the rest of humanity, showing that I'm trying to fit in as best as I can. Or maybe it's just for mindless entertainment. I give Jersey Shore 20 click points.